Why, hello there, Nice Tale here. I do hope this video finds you very well. Today, I am bringing you a review of this buck knife. Small Selkirk. There's a full-size version. There is also a fixed-blade version, which is going to come into play of my later discussion and thoughts on this knife. But, without further ado, let's just jump right into specs. Let's get that out of the way. We have 3¼ inches of blade, approximately. A little over 7 and... not quite 5/8, but a little over 7½ inches of overall length, and just over 4¼ So it's kind of like, 3¼ ish, 4¼ ish, 7½ ish. It all adds up ish. Let's compare to our full-size comparison, resident comparison, and small resident comparison, the Civivi Conspirator and Elementum, respectively. Get this thing back in the back there, and you can pretty much see that it fits pretty well in between the two. It does... yeah, no, it should fit almost exactly in between the two. This is a full size, this is a small knife, this is basically a medium knife. One final comparison, well, one final length comparison, I suppose, is grip length. And anybody can, check out grip length based on double-A batteries, so... you have just over 1 3/4 of double-A batteries to grip into. A lot of knives tend to give you maybe 2 if they have like a choil or something like that, or... yeah. I don't think most people are going to have issues with gripping onto this thing. I can get my full 4-finger grip on there, though, like, that's about as small as I'd want without it starting to cut out a little finger... something, I don't know. Whatever. It's fine. You'll probably be able to hold it no problem. Is basically what I'm saying. Thickness. Well, actually height. Height, it is a tiny bit shorter than the Conspirator, and thickness, it is thicker. It is a thick knife. Absolutely no doubt it's the thick knife. In fact, it gets thicker back here. It's considerably thicker than the Conspirator, and let's check out how thick it is real fast, because this is part of specs, right? 550 thousandths, so a little bit over ½ an inch there at the steel bolsters, yes. Back here in the handle, almost 3/4 of an inch. It gets much thicker there. Blade stock, 128 thousandths. I really thought that was going to be thicker. It's not, but it does kind of feel like it is. That may be in part because of this, which I know I'm not going to be very happy about this seeing, but it is what it is. 22 thousandths behind the edge. Now, that is, in my opinion, completely unacceptable. There may be a reason for it, and I may be giving them too much credit thinking that they may have thought this far ahead, but... even if there is a reason for it, it's too thick. That is not the thickest blade stock. It's got a reasonably tall, almost full, well, it is a full flat grind. Yeah, that needs to be thinner behind the edge. There's no reason for that to not be thinner behind the edge on a knife that has this much room for it. But it is what it is. I will get to why I think they may have done it later, whether it justifies or excuses it. That's a whole different issue, but whatever. Again, weight. Where is my scale? There's the scale. 4.71 ounces. I really thought that was going to be a bit heavier than that. I mean, it is a decent amount of steel. There's a decent amount of steel in the blade, too. Yet, it's not too bad. I mean, it's almost 5 ounces, which is, yeah, it's certainly not an ounce an inch. It's a thick and heavy weight for what it is, the size of it. I mean, it's thick for what it is, the size of it, but it's not too unreasonable. I kind of thought it was going to be even heavier. Hardware check for the final spec is... T8 pivot, T6 everywhere else, unfortunately. Yeah, I have had this apart, though, and been able to get it together. I didn't have any issues, so decent tools, and you should be fine. One thing that I will note is, and this happens occasionally, usually on budget knives, but, pardon me, the pivot does not like to stay tight. I can get this thing tight, and without play. However, even after just a few flicks, it wants to back out just a little. I've Loctited this thing, and it still does it. I've noticed that occasionally that happens on some budget knives where they like backing out. This one really likes backing out and developing play. I can get rid of the play and have it still function. In fact, right now, yeah, there's no play there. But it will quickly start to walk just a little bit. Which is kind of annoying, but it still functions, so not like horrible news. I'll try Loctiting it again, and that can just be between, different examples from the same model. Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. I think that is the end of our specs. So let's I guess technically when I talk about what we're looking at here real fast is still part of the specs. So blade steel is 420HC. Yeah, I wish it was better too. But Buck really is reluctant to use better stuff for most of the time. On this one, I'd have been okay with even 440. It's just a slight incremental improvement, but it would be slightly enough to be noticeable probably. It is what it is, though. It's 440. Steel bolsters, steel liner lock, and micarta, actually, even though this kind of looks like G10, it's actually micarta. I actually like this micarta. We'll talk about that. I guess that technically ends the specs. So, let's just get into the review and talk about what we're looking at here. Drop point blade, big logo. I'm not going to complain too much for a budget knife. It's also branded down there. Whatever. Thumb stud only action. I actually like these thumb studs. You've got the steps, and then underneath them, you've got like a smaller, skinnier cylinder. They work pretty well. Pretty snappy. It's got a pretty heavy detent. That was my fault. It's got a pretty heavy detent. Really? Now you're going to give me trouble? You were just doing it just fine a couple minutes ago. The lock bar pressure is pretty heavy. So it doesn't necessarily want to go, and it's on Teflon washers. I should probably mention that. So this is not like an indictment against it, and I'm also under a camera. There we go. Get it right. There we go. Okay. I can do it. I'm not totally incompetent here. They do work all right. Yeah. So even with heavy lock bar and washers, I can still get it to flick, which is it's not bad for what it is. Sharpen, chore, and plunge grind is all right. They give you a little bit of life on there. They did do my favorite thing and use the tang nub, which is right there, so it hooks around and hits the stop pin, which then does not have to be behind the edge, which gives you basically the ability to freely cut in and sharpen whatever you want. It's already pretty thick, but whatever. Buck doesn't put their blade steel on their steels. They just put, model numbers and codes and stuff like that. And their logo for some reason. Whatever. The actual washers, yeah, they're kind of low quality. You can definitely feel like they're not super smooth. Though I think with this one, yeah, most of it's just because it's got a heavy lock bar. I can feel the detent ball running along the blade. That will break in a bit more as time passes. It's not terrible. It's reasonable for a budget knife on washers. No super complaints there. Moving on from the actual blade, you have the bolsters in steel that are contoured. The entire thing's contoured, in fact. Just lightly contoured, but it is contoured. The bolsters are pretty well executed overall. You have a decent lock bar access, though they jimped it, which kind of makes it annoying to come from the side. You can do it, but in my opinion, when you come from the side, you kind of interact with the jimps in a way that's just not super comfortable. You can do it, but it's not ideal. I really don't like jimps and lock bar because it creates, apex points that you interact with before anything else, and then when you push into it, you get sort of pressure points. I just wish it was chamfered there. Would have been just infinitely better, but it is what it is. Adjusting to come from a little bit from the more the front, sort of just capturing a bit of like the skin of my finger to actually push over is typically what I do with this. It's a little bit more comfortable for me. But I suppose some people, you can definitely get it from the side, so it might work all right for some people. Moving on to the micarta, it's actually pretty nice. They polished it. It's pretty smooth. That's kind of part of the reason why I was having a little bit of issues reverse licking it, because it sometimes doesn't want to sit in your hand because it's relatively polished. But it's got some, cut ends or cut outs or whatever you want to call it to give a little bit of texturing kind of traction. I actually like the micarta a lot. I kind of wish they did this more often. That's not bad. The overall ergos are pretty neutral and pretty easy, pretty quintessential knife. There is one thing that they're doing that's quite good. You can probably see it, but we'll talk about it in a second. Standoffs back there. There is some weight milling for weight reduction, or skeletonization for weight reduction. The pocket clip is deep carry. It is mounted from the back. It is reversible. It has a big old, almost horizontal flat in there that is just a round ball. Don't like that. Kind of wish it was just continuous rise, but it still functions all right. I will note that because of where it's placed, when it's mounted not at the surface and down deep, you're never going to get it in thick pants all the way up. You're probably going to stop about there for sort of thicker pants, so you won't get the full super deep carry in every kind of pants, but you might get it for some. It does offer a decent pull point, though, with this little bit of cutout here, and also there's a bit of swell at the end. Well, there's a lot of swell, but getting it in and out of the pocket is pretty easy. There's definitely something to hold on to and sort of grab. In hand, I already said the ergos are good, and that's mostly because while you can slightly feel that top of that little clip, in like the saber grip, it's still quite comfortable. It actually falls in my hand in like great spot. I can even push grip this thing and find certain spots, like right here, pretty darn comfortable. Canted, pretty darn comfortable. Of course, there is a spot where if I just grab it, there is not that great. It's pushing into my hand. But you'll probably be able to find a decent spot to hold on to this thing. I don't think you're going to have too much issue there. Now, I already mentioned it, but the most interesting part of this knife is they did a palm swell using the micarta. It starts from the micarta. It doesn't include the steel, but it swells out and then back down, and then kind of like a slight little bit of swell out at the very end, too. That's really nice. That definitely adds to comfort. The larger one of this one, 3.8 inches, doesn't have a clip. I imagine that one's super comfortable in the hand. If I took the clip off, I'm sure this one would be super comfortable too. It's still reasonably comfortable as it is, but yeah, the palm swell, that's a nice touch. You don't see that often on pocket knives, and the full contouring, it's definitely like the hidden feature, because when you see this thing online or something, like I didn't know it had it before I got it in hand. It's a nice touch. It's a good feature that definitely makes things more ergonomic and more potentially comfortable. You can definitely find spots. The jimping's functional too, by the way. Not like the greatest jimping, but it does do something. Now, the final thing I wanted to say before we start finishing this up, whatever, is part of the reason that I think that this thing is as thick as it is. And this, again, may, in fact, as I said earlier, be me giving them too much credit. But if they make a fixed blade version of this, as I said in the very beginning, again, I think that the folding knife versions of this knife are supposed to be like homage to that fixed blade version. I mean, the palm swell like a fixed blade, the slightly thicker geometry, just the overall sort of styling of the knife is more straightforward fixed blade when you just look at it. And if you take this away, it feels like it might be intentional. And if that is the case, that would make a little bit of sense for the thicker geometry. I mean, Buck definitely makes knives with thinner geometry. In fact, the other two Bucks that I've recently checked out have much thinner geometry. They have hollow grinds on them. I mean, not much thinner geometry. The hollow grinds could still be a little bit thinner, if you, in my opinion, but they have much more reasonable geometry. If, in fact, they were definitely trying to channel the fixed blade through into the folding knife for this one, which it kind of feels like they were, then the thicker geometry makes sense. Is it that a good enough reason? No, I still would like to see thinner geometry on this blade. There's a lot of potential for a really good slicey blade here. But with the palm swell and everything, I'm not too angry at them. I'm unhappy that it's as thick as it is, but okay. If you want a model in your lineup to be on the thicker end, okay, that's fine. You can have one. Sure, go ahead. That's basically what I'm saying here. So, this knife is $55. Definitely a budget knife. It's a decent knife. It's a solid knife. However, I will say, I think Buck needs to just step up their game. I think most people in the knife world of, like, videos and enthusiast stuff kind of know that, like, Buck needs to step up their game just a bit. Their overall fit and finish and quality and what they're offering for their prices tends to be a little bit less impressive than some other things that you can check out. And weirdly enough, this carries over not just from their American line, but apparently into their Chinese-made line as well. Whereas, like this, for example, this is the Buck Exert. These knives feel of very similar levels of quality. And that, for me, is a little bit of a problem because this is a $27 knife. I've seen this as low as $17 on sale. This is a $55 knife. Other than the stainless steel and the micarta, there's not much distinguishing these two apart. In fact, there's a hollow grind on here, and you could argue that that might, I don't know, balance the tables a little bit. They're basically the same steel. In fact, let me see. I have the, if I remember correctly, yeah, the exact same steel. They're both made in the Chinese plant. When you transition from, the $30 knife to, well, $30, basically almost ultra budget knife, to $55 territory, yes, I expect the materials to reflect that a little bit, but I expect it also to be slightly higher quality, where there is no discernible change here. These are very, very similar. And that means the quality on this is lagging behind some of its, contemporary competitors. This one is particularly high in quality for what it is, but it's in the same territory as this knife, and there are a lot of other knives you can find at this price point that are going to out-quality this knife. They just are. And I think that's what gets a lot of people, at least again in the sort of YouTube, internet, Instagram, knife world, etc., probably overlooking, basically the people who do a little bit of research or who are watching these videos, maybe overlooking Buck because they're fumbling just a little bit behind. Just my thoughts, but I mean, I compared it to the Civivis earlier, and even these Civivis, yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit more expensive, but it stands. It's just, I don't think it quite rises to the occasion of beating some options that you get, whereas, like, this one pushing, especially considering how often it's on sale, if you're getting this for $25, you're just barely over gas station price territory. It's great. If you're getting this for $55, I kind of want it to be a little bit better than this. Neither are particularly bad, and I don't think you're going to be like, oh my god, I horribly regret getting this, unless it doesn't work in your hand for some reason, which can happen to anything. But I think they're just lagging behind just a little bit. Can I say it's not still semi-recommendable? No, it's a decent knife. It's fine. You probably will be reasonably happy with it if you're just looking at, if you're looking for something that is okay, if you really want that sort of folding pocket fixed blade kind of aesthetic going on here. It's probably doing just fine. The thickness will help with the 440 or 420 HC a little bit, maybe. Who knows? I don't have a lot of experience with thick behind the edge 420 HC, so that's awfully specific. But yeah, the small Selkirk is. I can't find myself saying I dislike it. I just kind of find myself saying I wish it was a little bit better for the price. So, yeah, that'll be it. That's the end of the review. I thank you for watching. If you've been stuck around till now, I thank you for watching, and whether you stuck around till now or not. Anyway, you just won't see this. I'm going to end things here and say have a great day. See you later.